welcome to another episode of the Business of Business podcast. I'm your host, Roy. Of course, we are the podcast that brings you a wide variety of guests that can talk about a diverse set of topics. Hopefully, we can show you something that maybe you haven't thought about or something that's keeping you up at night. We can provide you some answers or at least a go-to person to help you out. Today, we're excited to have Shayla Boyd-Gill. She went from bankruptcy to multiple six-figure business. She now is a family, freedom, and influence mentor and creator of Luxe Business Sales System and a sales strategist who knows women entrepreneurs have to have it all: family, freedom, and affluence while doing what they love. She teaches her clients, which are mostly service-based businesses, to restructure their businesses and lives by boosting their high-ticket sales so that they can make more money in less time without a heavy client load. Shayla, thanks for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Really excited to be with you here today.
Yeah.
Roy, thank you for inviting me to your community.
Yes, yeah, and nothing better that we like to talk about than how we can increase our sales without having to increase, necessarily our customer base, and, talking more focusing on those high ticket items and how we can structure that. But before we jump into the good stuff, tell us about yourself. How did you end up here? Have you always been in sales? Is this something that maybe, you took a turn through some other disciplines to get here?
Yeah, I took a turn, leap, hop, and a few other things, actually. So I started out as an entrepreneur in 2003, and that entrepreneurship journey was actually in the world of birthing, like having babies.
Oh, wow.
And by the time I started that journey, I'd already had 3 babies. And I decided that I wanted to leave my corporate job as a construction engineering manager, ground up construction. I was like, I need to go home and I want to be with my kids, but I need to figure out something that I can do because we had a dual family income.
Yeah.
And the one thing I thought about, the funny thing I tell everyone is the thing that I thought about was what can I do really well and that I can use to make money? I was really good at having babies. Sounds weird, but I was. So I said, well, what can we do? I'm not going back to school for this. This is not the journey I was quite thinking of.
Right.
But what I realized, I had amazing birthing experiences, and so many women in my community had horrible experiences. And what I understood they needed was education.
Yeah.
So I became a childbirth educator and a doula, one of the top paying birth workers in the Washington, D.C. area.
Oh, wow.
This industry, Roy, we are a very giving industry.
Yeah.
And so a lot of birth workers have a hard time charging for their services.
Right.
I started having different birth workers come to me and say, how are you getting all these clients, number one, and how are you charging this much for your service? We are doulas, we're childbirth educators. No one's paying this kind of money. I'm like, actually they are, but you don't know how to set up your business. I just happen to be a little bit more business savvy. So I started teaching some of them how to structure their businesses and how to get better quality clients, but also make sure that as they're serving, they're not burning themselves out.
Yeah.
Going from that industry, I personally, as I taught and served everyone else, I burned out.
Yeah.
Because, getting up at 3 a.m, babies don't have a schedule.
No, they don't.
They call when they call.
Right.
And by the time I left the birthing industry, I had 6 children of my own.
Wow.
And I literally said, I need to retire. I need to get out of this birth working service. It's really good money, but it's not sustainable.
Right.
And I wanted to leave while I was still on top. I decided to leave, continue to coach other birth workers. And then I knew it was time to expand beyond birth workers because I had gotten out of the industry. I gotten out of some of the lingo, the knowledge. I didn't stay up to date. I was like, when I retired, I disconnected.
Yeah.
And some of my clients that had babies with me, they wanted to stay home. How can I start making money? I'm like, oh, you should become an entrepreneur. What do you do well? We figured it out. Same path. Great. Let me teach you how to turn that into a business. And from there, I just realized people really suck at selling. It doesn't matter who you are. Most people don't want to sell. I understand because we've been taught to sell in the wrong manner for many personalities.
Yes.
And I had to develop what I call my Luxe sales system. And I've been able to teach people to go from just starting to selling. Then once you have an established six-figure business or more, how to start scaling
Yeah.
and sell higher ticket. And that's how I got to where I am now.
Nice. Yeah. So many people, they're good at their craft. And
Of
so that
course.
selling part, and I think, with people that deliver care, it's even worse because they are compassionate by nature. And so they
Absolutely.
look at this situation like, oh, this person really needs help. How can I? So if you can overcome that, only question I have about the birthing business is, did you have people come back to you, when these kids turn 13 years old and hit those teenage years, are they coming back wanting their money back
What do
or
we
yeah,
do
yeah,
now?
right. Exactly.
The funniest thing is I have people that will see me in the area, like they may see me at the grocery store and they're like, "Hi, Shayla, this is Johnny." And I'm like, "Who's Johnny?"
Oh
You
my,
were my doula. You were my childbirth educator. And these are teenagers now. So it's really fascinating. They're like, "This is your doula. She was at your birth." And the kids are looking at me like, "This is strange. Why are you
right.
telling me this, mom and dad? What's going on here?"
Exactly.
So I'm definitely seeing them
Yeah,
now.
that's funny. Well, so tell us about your system, and I think especially starting out, we want to take everybody that we possibly can, and sometimes we make deals we shouldn't make for lower dollars because
All of us have.
we think it'll help us in the long run. And, we all have made those mistakes. But talk a little bit about, how you structure this where we can, focus on the high ticket items. Like you said, less clients, less fuss, but probably more money at the end of the day.
Well, the most challenging part that I find that my clients have in my system, we have five parts.
Okay.
The first part is what I call my Luxe clarity. And when we're looking at clarity, we're getting clear on the type of client that we want to serve. Especially if we come from a place where we're serving everyone, meaning I can teach anyone how to start a business,
Right.
how to sell in their business. That was me. When I switched from the birth workers, I'm like, I can teach any woman how to start a business.
Right.
I had to over time learn to refine that because I did fall victim into, I was used to generating money very easily as a doula and childbirth educator. Now going into general coaching, I needed a win. I
Yeah.
need to land a client. And usually that gut instinct will tell you if you're on the phone with someone and you're selling to them and you realize that's probably not the person you should
Right.
say, "Hey, let's make a deal."
Yeah.
And you make the deal and it's the worst client you've ever had. They
Right.
want the most and you've charged the least amount of money. So, one of the first steps I have my clients do and really just make peace with is releasing what's no longer working for you.
All right.
So, when we're looking at releasing what's no longer working for us, what I like to say is, people always teach you to go for the lowest hanging fruit, what you already know, but sometimes what you know and what you're familiar with or whom you're familiar with
Yeah.
may not be the best person that
Right.
you need to serve.
Yeah.
Just because you're familiar with them
Yeah.
doesn't mean that they need to be your clients. And so we will often sell and we're wanting to sell here pretty high, but we'll often our messaging and our language and the persons we're calling in are at a lower level.
Right.
And so it's a mix match in the language. So people will say, "I'm booking calls, but no one's buying," because you're speaking to the lower version of the client that you really desire.
Yeah.
You're not speaking your client's language because you're still connected to what worked for you in the past.
Yes.
And if you've elevated to this new higher ticket client, they're speaking a different language.
Yeah.
So you have to release what's no longer working for you. That client you used to work with may not be the client that's going to work with you now.
Yeah.
If they're not elevating with you, it's okay to release them. And the thing, Roy, is to make peace with that fear of leaving people behind.
Yeah.
There's someone for everyone.
Yeah.
Your job is not to serve everyone. Your job is to serve the right people that need to work with you right now.
Yeah, because we can get so bogged down serving everybody and not that market that we really need to be in that we don't have time to take
Yes,
care of the people in that higher market the way that we really should, giving them the time and attention that they deserve. We're wasting on
absolutely.
others. And then, like you said, they either make a really bad client where you spend twice as much time trying to make them happy, or you end up having to fire them. It
Right.
just leads into a huge mess. I think trying to get that who your target is, who you want to work with, and then there has to be that they need to want to work with you as bad as you want to work with them. Sometimes that's, I don't want to get ahead of you here, but sometimes that's the problem with the hard sell is, we end up getting a client, making a client or turning them, but they weren't the right person. And then it just leads to a lot more problems down the road.
It does lead to problems.
Yeah.
And I love that you said the word turning them into a client,
Yeah.
into a client. Our job is not to convince someone to work with us.
Right.
And sometimes sales go wrong because we're convincing the person.
Right.
Like they're saying,
Right.
find the pain, find the pain.
Yeah.
Tell them that you have the solution.
Right.
Okay, that's cute in the moment, but if you have to convince them that they need to work with you, you're going to be continuing to convince them to
Right.
make the shifts that you're encouraging them to make while they're working with you.
Right.
And so it still becomes more work, more effort, more time than you actually need. The people that you really want to work with, the reality is they often need less time.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I find with my higher level clients. They're not looking for more hours. They want to have access to me, but they just need quick answers. They're busy. They want quick answers. They want solutions. They want connections. They want the resources, but they're not buying time. So when you stop selling time,
Right.
you're going to attract a different kind of client.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I have heard that before as well about, we have to quit selling time because that just basically means that we have a job. So we have to sell.
It's an employee mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, so what is number 2 after we found clarity? Where do we go from there?
So after you find clarity, then it's important that we create and we provide an amazing solution. So this is your high ticket offer. Your offer needs to be something that not only provides a solution to whatever the challenge is that they're having, but I love to say that it's transformational. It should take them from A to Z.
Right.
And if your offer is that compelling and it solves the problem for them, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to stick around and renew, meaning you're able to retain your clients if you have that type of service.
Right.
Or they're going to become raving fans where they're going to tell more people about what you've done. And so now you have new marketing, internal marketing that's in place. You have people that are marketing for you. A mistake that I think a lot of my clients have made, and I made in the past too, I've had clients, I'm focusing on nurturing them, but I'm looking with the other eye, trying to look at who can I bring in as another client.
Yeah.
Whereas you could work with your clients that you already have and nurture them and make sure you're creating so they have something else to go towards, because you create brand loyalty that way.
Right.
So I do have clients that renew services, and or if our contract is over, they may come back for a VIP day or something of that nature. So we forget there's money right in front of us, but we're looking to the side to chase money that's going to take longer to nurture and get into our system. So don't forget what's already there for you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I see that a lot. We're so focused on the new people that a lot of companies totally forget, number one, to take care of their customer, because we want to not only keep them as a customer for longer term, but then we also don't focus on how we can provide more services, because the cost of acquisition for an existing client for a new service is minuscule compared to the cost of acquisition of a brand new client.
You know what I find people really buy from me, Roy? They purchase an experience.
Right.
We think, like, I'm a business coach, business strategist, sales coach. We think they're buying sales coaching, but actually they're purchasing an experience.
Yeah.
So I have what I call 7 Luxe touch points. That's one of my Luxe touch points, the Luxe experience. There should be an experience from the time they first have a conversation with you, when they're exploring if we should do work together, to the point where they're giving you their credit card information. They should still feel like they're having an experience once they've said yes.
Right.
We drop the ball on the experience once we get paid. we get paid, we put them in the loop, put them in an email cycle, get them on the calendar, and it's just like, okay, on to the next person.
Right, right.
So are they having an experience where they feel like I made an amazing decision? Do you have emails that are following up with them? Do you have a client concierge or someone that's calling saying, hey, welcome? Are you sending a welcome gift? Is there something that makes them feel like they made an amazing decision and they're so glad that they said yes, versus them paying, sitting in silence, waiting for their appointment, talking to their friends or family members and second guessing their decision?
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's funny you mentioned that because there's a lot of evidence out there that, it's generational as well as just good business to add that value of the experience. But sometimes it can be our target group because uh, like the silent generation, they were all about the thing, like they wanted the coffee mug and this and that. Whereas, the baby boomers and even the next step down, it's more about the experience. That's what they want, is they want to have a good experience, not just feel like they just purchased a thing.
Yeah, they want to feel like they're coming off the car lot with the car that they really desire.
Yeah.
Not like, okay, I just purchased a phone call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And it's scary because even if you have some if you have some history or experience with somebody, once you give them money for something, then you kind of hold your breath, wondering, are you going to hear from them again,
Right.
and what is that going to look like? So I love the reaching out, with basically onboarding your new clients.
Yeah,
It's
and if you document that and you're consistent with that process, every client's going to have the same experience.
Right.
So say if you have some event they meet and they're like, well, I didn't get that, or oh yeah, I did talk to
right.
Mary, she was awesome. I have clients that will share with other people. They're like, yeah, when I joined Shayla's program, we did X, Y, and Z, and then I got this thing. But they're excited.
Yeah.
It keeps the momentum going.
Right.
And we just can't forget that it can't just be I'm selling.
Right.
We are giving an experience. The transformation starts from the yes.
Right. All right. So what's our third step after we provide an amazing solution?
Okay, so your amazing solution is one thing that you're creating, but also now we're looking at pricing. So when a person says, I want a high ticket offer, oftentimes people say, well, just raise your prices, right? That's what you hear. Oh, you should raise your prices. But what does that mean?
Right.
What does it really mean for your business? It's important that as you're packaging this offer, that we have value pricing, and it's not based on how many phone calls, as we said before. Right. So when we're looking at a high ticket range, especially when we're looking in this coaching consulting range, some people may look at what we call a front end or short term. So your front end or short term, you may be looking at something between $3,000 and $20,000. That's like a few months of service. When we're looking at something that's maybe a year long, you could easily be going from a range of 25 to 100,000 or more. And if you're asking someone for $100,000, for example, it's not just you're getting 4 coaching calls plus, a title and a plaque.
Right.
It's an experience,
Yeah.
And so, number one, I tell people, make sure whatever number that you're deciding to value your services at, that it really is valued at that.
Yeah.
Anyone can say this is worth $199 and that's worth $299. We love putting 99s and 97s on the end of things.
Exactly.
But really look at, if I price a service for my clients, I'm saying oftentimes, because of the way that I'm selling to them, I'm like, how many clients will it take for them to be able to get a return on investment? I only want it to be 1 or 2, and they can easily get a return on investment. Right. So they can see for themselves, this makes sense for my budget. You'd have to, number one, know who the client is and know what the price range is that client can tolerate.
Yes.
You need to also make sure you're absolutely delivering on the promises. The problem we have in this industry, or my industry specifically, coaching consulting, there's no regulation. So anyone can do anything. And there have been a lot of raggedy things that have happened, unfortunately.
Right.
So people have been scarred and burned. People have not delivered on what they've promised. You need to be clear what your promises are. You have to be very careful if you're making promises saying you're going to make $100,000 in 6 months. How can you promise that if you don't know how the person works? You don't know, the commitment level. There's a lot of empty promises in that.
Yeah.
So be clear on what the outcome is that you can promise for the person, and make sure you can deliver on that outcome that's being promised. That's the biggest thing. The integrity around the pricing is super important. It doesn't matter how much it is. It matters, are they going to get what was promised?
Yeah.
People talk.
Yes.
If you are pricing your services at some very high ticket level and people are, losing homes and can't eat, can't pay their mortgage, and you told them to go and get their 401k or something strange, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. So you should be able to sleep at night with whatever pricing that you're asking for, but knowing you can deliver on what you say that you can do.
Yeah, that's important, because I can give you all the best advice in the whole world, but if you don't put it into practice, you're not going to make any more money or any more clients. And so I think, as consultants, we all have to be very careful about those promises, because it sounds great when you're signing them up and you get them all hyped up, but if there's nothing on the back end, and with today's virtual ratings and virtual communication, it doesn't take long for when something goes wrong for it to start spreading like wildfire, and then all of a sudden everybody's scared of you. And
all of them. People talk.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a dual agreement. It's the agreement on what you're going to deliver, but it's the agreement on what your clients are going to commit to doing.
Yeah.
And one of the things when I'm having discovery calls with people, I'm very clear about that. Here's what I know I can show up and do for you.
Right.
Here's the type of client that I need to show up for me.
Yeah.
And if we are matched in that manner, we can work well together.
Yeah.
So I love to tell my clients, where you hear the term, not all money's good money.
Right.
Just because someone can afford to pay your high ticket services doesn't mean that they're a good fit to work with you. If they don't have the integrity around showing up to their appointments on time, doing what it is that you've requested, they're not coachable. They are like, you can tell if people are complainers from the beginning.
Right.
If they start their discovery call off with what's your refund policy? Okay, so let's talk about why we're starting there. Okay, because you've already identified that you might not do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So if that's your first question, we're probably not a good fit to work together. And I'm okay with leaving a discovery call. Like if I see red flags, I'm okay with saying, I don't believe that we're a good fit.
Right.
And people are like, you're not going to make me an offer? Absolutely not.
No.
There's no obligation for me to make an offer just because it's a sales call.
Yeah.
You're not obligated to make an offer.
Yeah, and I think another great point is that it's better to walk away from those situations when you get that feeling, or, and it's something that you just learn over time when the conversation is going the wrong direction. It's okay to say, you know what, we're just not going to be a good fit. And there's nothing wrong with that. We don't have to explain ourselves. We get to choose who we work for as we go through this. And so
you get to choose it. And there are 4 L's, I like to say. When you're on that discovery call, your job is to listen.
Right.
People are going to tell you exactly what you need to know. You're going to learn from that conversation that they're telling you. So you're going to learn, is this a good fit or is this not a good fit?
Right.
Does this person have the integrity or not? And then you need to lead, LEAD as in David. You have to lead your calls. If you get people on a discovery call that are chatty, they don't answer questions, they get distracted, and you're not able to bring them back to focus on the question that's being asked, you're not leading the call. Yeah. Therefore, you're not showing your authority from the beginning. Yeah. So just imagine what it will look like if you decide to start working with the person. Yeah. That can be another indicator if you can't lead this call properly. Right. And that 4th one is what we just talked about, lead, LEAVE. If it's not going in the direction it needs to, if you're unable to lead or redirect, if the person's not being considerate, if the person gets on the call and says, so how much does it cost?
Right.
And you're not having a conversation, it's not a good fit.
Yeah. And usually when people lead with that, how much is it? That's when usually I stop it right there and say, if you're
Yes.
just trying to find a bargain basement price, then I am not your guy for sure. And kind of wanted to touch on that on the setting up pricing, because I see this in the other way as people try to price something so low that they end up working for minimum wage. And so we have to give a
Easy.
lot of thought into how much time are we committing to this, and what do we need to charge to make money. There's nothing wrong with where you fall on the spectrum. If you want to make 25,000 a year and you're good with that, if you want to make 50, 100, whatever it is, but really give some thought into the pricing, because I've had people before price services and I'm like, well, how much time does it really take you to fulfill that? And when they start adding up all of these different things, it's like, oh wow, I'm just barely breaking even on this service. And so give it some thought. And then kind of on the other side of this is when people start trying to beat you up over pricing. That's another great time to say, you know what, this just isn't for you. The service just isn't for you, and that's okay.
Right.
And I guarantee you, if you do that enough, you will have people that hang up, think about it, and they call you back and say, you know what, it is for me. They just want to see what they can get by with it a lot of times. But you can actually bring somebody around to your way of thinking by just letting them know, because people want things that are scarce. And so they
Yes.
think if you're
Yes.
willing to walk away, you still have to be careful, because those still may be troubled clients,
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
still you might get a second chance at that. So never be scared to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, you can't be scared of that. Like another Lux touch point is being exclusive. So exclusivity is important for me because I speak about having fewer clients but making more money. So if my client knows that I have a very exclusive offer,
Right.
they understand I don't have hundreds of people in a program. There may be just 12 of them. And if I have 12 spaces for the year, they understand I'm one of the 12. And if
Right.
you don't get in, you're on the wait list. I don't want to wait 12 months on a wait list. So
Right.
I'm making my decision. But don't use scarcity as a false way of advertising.
Right.
We've seen that too, right? You've seen it like, oh, I only have space for 5 people. Ta-da! Ooh, it was such a demand that
Yeah.
now we
Right.
have 10 more spots available. Oh, the email didn't work. We're over it. I'm like,
Right.
come on, let's just do true marketing, have real conversations, attract the people you really want. The people that I work with, they don't fall into that trap.
Right.
They're not looking for the gimmicky things. They
Yeah.
want a straightforward offer, straightforward answers, and that's what I prefer. So know your client,
Yeah.
know what they can tolerate.
Yeah. No, and that's so important. I love that, to be straightforward. If you have a product or service that you have to be gimmicky, you need to really
There's a
rethink that whole
problem.
thing. And
There's a
because
problem.
it's not ethical, number one, but you're going to get into trouble on the back end, because I've seen those deals, where it's like, oh, we got 5 seats, we have limited 5 seats, and then you get on a call and there may be 35 or 50 people on there. Like, what kind of a limit was that?
All
Yeah,
5 of
yeah,
those, right?
yeah. There must have been like 5 in that 1 hour or something. But anyway,
Exactly.
we just I can't stress that enough, is just the honesty and integrity, because the other part is that if you do have a client that you get, if they get a hint of that you're not honest, and then you don't have integrity, you do say things like that, then they're going to start to question everything that you say in your relationship, and that's not good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of my coaches once told me that, you need to show up as who you are and don't surprise people once they pay you.
Right.
So, you can't show up one way
Right.
online
Right.
and then people pay you and they're like, who's this person?
Exactly.
So you need to be consistent
Yeah.
with your messaging, consistent with your behavior, consistent with the way that you're speaking to people. I can't be this super nice person online and then I get a client and I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like I'm a drill sergeant.
Yeah.
People don't want that. They want to know that they are buying into what you sold to them.
Right.
That's
Right.
all they want.
Yeah, because that's why they bought in the first place. Usually, we buy from people that we like, or we buy from people that we see ourselves in, or we see qualities that we like. And so if we present those to get the client and then that's not who they get after that, that's another big red flag.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've purchased that way before and I'm like, what happened?
Right, right.
Who's this person?
Yeah. Or they say, you call for John, and it's like John is never around. You always get pushed
Never.
off to somebody else, and then, again, it's like if that is the arrangement up front and everybody's clear, then that's understandable. But I always feel like, especially in consulting, if you're going to be the salesperson and you're going to represent, you're getting my wisdom, then
Right.
you have to get my wisdom. Now you get,
Or say my team and
yeah,
I,
right,
and
right,
you're going to be working with several members of my team
right,
along with me. So I know
exactly.
I can accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, that just gets back to the honesty and integrity that we have to present and live by. We have, we can't just, I shouldn't say present, because we have to live by it, from sales to servicing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I believe in karma. So I'm like, if you do people dirty, it's going to come back. You're going to pay the price one way or another.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have a good story I'm going to skip for now on the karma thing, but believe me, and sometimes it's instant karma. Like,
Right.
you can do that and walk 2 steps, and you get caught up with.
Absolutely.
All right. So what is our fifth step?
Let's see where and so once we've done let me just go through everything again.
Okay.
So we have our Luxe clarity, we have the offer, our pricing, selling and giving. So when we're getting into Luxe selling and giving, I like to combine them together. So we've kind of talked about selling on the phone already,
Okay.
and selling an offer that we really believe in, that we value, that we can stand behind. The other piece is giving. Everyone wants to teach you how to sell and become a millionaire.
Right.
But I like to position with that is also giving energetically, making an impact. And so one of the ways that I challenge my clients is for them to not only reach their sales goals, but to attach their impact goal to that.
Right.
So their impact goal may be, I want to give to an organization, or I want to give time. I want to travel to this place to make an impact. I want to start my own 501c3 to make an impact. But usually the clients that come to me, it's bigger than I just want to make the money. Money is important, but I tell people your goal alone cannot be money, because you can quit on that goal.
Yeah.
That's not enough of a driver. You can go get a job and make money.
Right.
But you have to have something that's like, people say, what's your big why? You may have a personal why, but I want you to have an impact why too. And so that impact may be a percentage of your sales for a certain product or service that you have. It may be you just make a bold acclamation in the beginning of the year. I'm going to be able to give $5,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 by the end of the year to this cause. You're going to work a little differently to meet that goal, because now you're not going to sit back and say, well, let me rest. Oh boy, I didn't make my goal. No, I made a promise. Let me make sure I can meet this goal so I can make a bigger impact. Not an impact just so my name can be associated with giving, but an impact so someone else's life can be changed.
Yeah.
It's good karma. We just talked about karma.
Yeah.
It's good energy to be able to have that, to be a part of your business, because you're working not only for you, but you're impacting other people's lives.
Yeah.
Your impact may be, if you have all high ticket items, maybe you want to be able to help. Like for me, maybe I want to help some other women to just start businesses, but they wouldn't be in a position to do my high ticket pieces that I have. I might decide to have a free program for a few women, a select group of women. And depending on what my sales look like, I might be able to support 5 women in starting their first business and be able to give them a mini grant to do that.
Yeah.
I might be sending some young women to college, but I am making an impact outside of what I'm bringing into the company. It's also what we're doing outside of the company.
Yeah. And again, another great point, because it's not only the karma factor, but I think it's just energy. We are what we put out, and that gets back to, our attitude and a lot of other things. If we have bad attitude and poor me, guess what? It's going to be poor you, because you're setting yourself up for that, where even when things that we don't understand or we don't go our way, we have to still pick ourselves up and have a smile and say, you know what? I don't know why that happened, but it happened for a reason. And it's funny because we just had, I just had something happen the other day. I was trying to purchase something and it wouldn't go through. My credit card company blocked it. So I called them, got it released. I still could not buy this thing. And it was just frustrating. I can't even tell you how, because I needed this component to use pretty quickly to get something done. And so I'm just
Right.
like, I'm talking to Terry, my partner, about this and telling her, I don't know what's going on and this and that. Okay, so went to bed, slept, got up the next day, and like, I'm trying this one more time. And so as I'm looking through this collateral, I see the second component that I was looking at. Now I find that there's a bundle where I can put both of these things together, and I got them
Yes.
for the same price I was fixing to pay for the first. So to me, it's just little things like that frustration was actually led me to a better place. And it's hard to it's hard to get in that mindset, but I just feel like we have to. It's what we put out in the world.
It's what we put out. So I always say I circulate money,
Yeah,
and it always comes back to me.
exactly.
I circulate, and if you're circulating, it's always going to come around.
Right.
And those little things like that, like trying to use that card because you were set on getting this thing.
Right.
Sometimes I believe the universe has blocks for us on purpose. And
Yeah.
when I realize I'm being blocked, I'm not mad about it anymore. I get
No.
frustrated. And then usually once I pause, I'm like, there's a reason. And I release, I kind of surrender to,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
this is happening for a reason. Let me be still and see what's really happening.
Yeah.
And things will clear their way up. So
Yeah.
it happens all the time.
I'm a slow learner. I know that,
It
but
took me years. It took me years. Don't worry.
I know that, but put it into practice. Yeah, and I heard another great thing, and this could go when we're talking to prospects or clients too, is that instead of having a poor reaction, instead of having a poor response, we can have a poor reaction, but count to like 3 or 5, whatever, before you respond, and
Absolutely.
it'll definitely change the way, instead of that initial whatever, blurting out something that you wish you hadn't, if you could take a minute to think about it, to really have a measured response.
And we're in a society now where we do need to pause. We need to
Yes.
pause because there's so much stimulation,
Yeah.
so much is coming to us that you need to sit, pause, breathe, absorb what's being said, especially if it's texting, if someone's sending messages, you're interpreting. Assumptions are getting us in trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Assumptions are like the big thing now. It's like someone says something and you're like, what did they mean by that? You create a whole story
Right.
that you don't need to create. So you do. I love that you said sometimes you just have to sit for a few seconds
Yeah.
and just let it sit with you.
Yes.
And then you can find
Yeah.
the words that need to be said. And you might be able to really save a relationship, an opportunity, all kinds of things.
Yeah, because there's one meme that says, there's a list of things, but the words are one thing we can never take back. And once we say that, and the other thing is getting clarity with what's said in this, dealing with clients, it's important because we don't want to misinterpret something. And that another thing, pick up the phone and make a phone call where you can hear the voice, the inflection, all of those different things make a difference, because I will tell you, I have misread, misinterpreted emails and be like, what the heck is going on? And so pick up the phone call the guy and say like, hey, can you explain this to me? And they're like this. And I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Not anywhere close to what I thought. So
Nowhere near. I had that happen yesterday. Someone sent me a message and they said, hey, Shayla, something. It was this whole story. And then I was like, I really need to talk. And I'm like, oh, whoa, what happened? I'm running through racking my head. Like, did I say something? What happened? I'm like, wait a minute. Why are you having this whole story?
Right.
That person didn't say that you did anything.
Yep.
You've come up with an entire story of something's wrong. And when I spoke to the person, it was really amazing. It was a whole totally opposite.
Yeah.
It was a celebration, but we make up these stories.
Yes.
Just because I'm always on, I got to fix it. And I'm like, what am I fixing? You don't even know what you're fixing, Shayla. Stop it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't mean to stray off topic, but I think that, what we put out in the world, not only money wise, but helping people without expecting reciprocation. I've got a little company that, somebody reached out on LinkedIn, asked a question. It turned into a thing. And, we just had a quick phone call. I didn't charge them for it, but I made a relationship with these two people that I'll probably get some business from them at a later date. But if not, at least they will tell. But I didn't do it expecting a return. And I think we have to be careful with that. We have to give without expectations.
You do. You do. And you can be selective of who you choose to give to.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with giving.
Right.
There's nothing wrong because someone probably gave something to you.
Yeah,
So there's
exactly.
nothing
Yeah.
wrong with giving. Just you're selective
Yes.
of who you choose to give to, and
Right.
you have to give openly, like you said, without that expectation.
Right.
Whatever needs to be taken care of will be taken care of.
Right.
And so I always believe if I'm giving, however I choose to walk in my lane, things will be taken care of.
Right. Right. Exactly.
But it's an abundant mindset. It all comes from that place of abundance.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And talking about that, I'll say one more thing before we get back on track is that I read this interesting article that was saying, instead of being like, dang it, Shayla just got this new car or she just got this new client and me not so much and I'm all down. Instead of that, we should say, you know what? Thank goodness for Shayla getting what she got.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want some of that, please. And you kind of have to ask for that instead of, getting distraught that somebody else got something that you think you should have or wanted. Is you said it too. Stay in our lane, run our race because. I don't know what you've been doing for the last 10 years to get to this point where maybe I just started 6 months ago. So we're going to be totally different places, but we can, it's not a zero sum game. We can all be successful. We can all have what we need and what we want. And so there's no reason to kind of be down on yourself or other people for what they've got.
I've heard that story differently, and it's very similar. So when you start seeing the things that you want and desire, you start seeing the cars, you start seeing the person that you didn't think could get this thing,
Yeah.
they start getting it. So instead of us also doing that negative thought of why did they have it,
Yeah.
we look at this and it's an indicator of evidence. It's closer to you now than ever before. It's closer to you now, especially if you've been asking for it. It's closer to you now than ever before. So you absolutely are celebrating that that person was able to get that
Right.
person has that car, that person got that opportunity because now it's closer to you.
Yeah.
Meaning it's coming to you very
Yeah.
soon.
I like that. Yeah. Anytime we can shift this because, our mind is always grinding and we get to choose what it grinds. We can just
Yes.
as easily put the positive stuff through there than the negative. So anyway, I'm sorry. Back on track. Back on track on sales
We're
here.
always on track. We're always on track. It's okay.
Okay. So after we have selling and giving, we have one more.
We have one more. So after
Okay.
selling and giving is our overall, what I call my Luxe CEO. So your Luxe CEO, everything that I teach my clients is about business. But what we forget often is we have to take care of ourselves too.
Yes.
So you can build this $1 million, multi-million dollar business, but if you've spent your whole time focusing on building the business and not focusing on taking care of you, taking care of what you had before the business. So if it's your family, if it's your relationship, those pieces I try to make sure we put in place. So with my clients, for example, it may be as simple as I tell them once we're getting our money to a place where it's stable, we have consistent monthly revenue where they want to be. How about taking 1 week off a month?
Yeah.
And using that to focus on you, focus on your family, focus in other areas, doing things that are not businessy,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
What are we looking at as far as spending the time and making sure you're eating a meal with the family? What we find when we start making more money with women and men, relationships start falling apart.
Right.
They fall apart. One person's on this high journey,
Yeah.
another person's over here holding down the fort, and they're looking at you like, what about me?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And I saw this in the corporate world. I see this in the entrepreneurial world too. So I really am where you read earlier, family, freedom, and affluence. Family is super important to me. Many of my clients are family oriented. And so I want them to build this piece, this legacy piece, but also keep their family intact in the process and also keep themselves intact. Make sure that you're feeling good. People get burned out.
Right.
People get sick. We see in people in their 40s and 50s, there's more disease that's coming to us as entrepreneurs because we're stressed.
Yeah.
You can't make money when you're stressed, or you're going to make the money and spend it all on your health because you are stressed.
Yeah.
And so I don't teach balance because I don't believe there's like the work-life balance, but I believe you put energy where you need to put it when it's needed.
Yeah.
And you need to create and build that space in so that you can do that. So that's part of being a CEO, not only being a leader and running this business, but also leading your life.
Yeah.
and leading the things that are around you. Don't leave that behind. Don't sacrifice what you had just for the sake of the money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll do a selfless plug that we just did an episode with. He's more of a wellness coach, but we did an episode because it's important when you're making decisions. We need to be well rested. We need to be we need to have some movement, some exercise, and also for myself, it helps me to have some clarity if I'm getting jammed up, if I can't solve a problem, if I'm feeling stressed, if I can take a minute and go walk around the area where we live for just a minute, I will come back so refreshed and
Absolutely.
give it much more. But taking care of ourselves, extremely important, and our relationships, don't want to leave that out, because we can get to the end of our journey and be very successful, and then we've lost all the important relationships around us. And even if they're not involved in the business, like Terry, I keep her involved. She does a lot, but it's the conversation that we have, so she never feels left out. She always knows what's going on when things get stressful. I'm like, hey, we're kind of going through this little stress period for this reason. So,
or add we to the conversation.
Right.
When we're talking about our business, we will often say, I'm doing this, I'm making money, I'm going to do this thing.
Right.
And I always like to tell my clients, add the tag on so that we can.
Right.
If you can add the so that we can, that's the first group of people you're selling to, your family.
Right.
So for me, I have 6 children and I have a husband. When I'm saying I'm going to a conference for a week, they're like, okay, you get to go to vacation for a week and we're staying here. I'm going on this conference so that we can be able to. I'm going to always add the so that we can do on there. And so now when I have to leave, my husband's like, yeah, go ahead. I know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, and I support you.
Right.
Because he understands this journey. We're looking at long money. We're looking at creating this legacy. And he understands this temporary stint of me being away is worth the time.
Yeah. And it's so much easier in life when those closest to us support us, because once friction starts to build, it's hard. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to go on. It's tough to know what to do. You spend more time dealing with the friction than you do on the business. So it's always good to keep that. And I'm like you, I don't really know that there is a balance, because there's times when you can take more personal time than there's times you have to do more business time. And it's even more of a hurdle for some people, and I'm not speaking for you, but I can assume this as well. When you really like what you do, I never feel like I'm at work. I just, and I can go and go and go. And so, having a little tap on the should to say, hey, enough is enough for today. We're going to
step away from the computer.
Exactly.
Shayla.
Yeah. It's, that does add an extra dimension. But it's good. It's really good to do something that you love. That's really a key.
Because it doesn't feel like work.
No, it doesn't.
And if if I know every time I get on the phone with my clients, I'm like, there's a breakthrough. Something amazing is happening. I do have to remind myself, shut it down.
Yeah.
Which is why I only schedule calls between a certain time. I don't do calls late. I will tell people whenever they work with me, I don't take calls in the evening. I'm not a night person.
Yeah.
So I need to spend the time I can with my family, but I don't want to be on the phone talking to people about business at night. I want to turn my computer off. I want to be able to say, hey, family, let's go do something.
Yeah.
And people respect that. My clients can respect that. People say, well, what if my clients only can talk at that time? People will find the time to speak to you when you say you're available, if they really want the thing that you say that you can do.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, you've got to set those boundaries, because if you don't, everything will get out of whack. You'll get out of whack with your health, with your relationships, and then everything gets back to affecting the business. So don't feel bad about setting those boundaries. That's what we get to do. If people don't like it or can't operate within them, then that's when we get to say, you know what, this just probably isn't going to be a good fit. And we don't feel bad about that. We have to
not at all.
Hold your head up high, because we're looking for people that want to work with us in the way that we work, and they're out there. I guarantee you they're out there. All right, Shayla. Well, thanks so much for being with us. Is there anything else that you want to share before we wrap this up? I know we've run kind of long. I apologize for that, but it's good conversation.
Fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. So yeah, if you want to really connect with me, you can find me online under my name, Shayla Boyd-Gill, everywhere from all the social media platforms to my website. So
Okay.
if you go there, you'll find me plus free resources that you can use
Okay.
for your business and for your life.
Okay, great. And I will put all that in the show notes as well, so y'all can reach out to Shayla and get some of her expertise, run through this program. It's great. I mean, everything that you hit on, it's like putting it all together so we can we can be successful, healthy, happy, and also we have a process to go through. I think that's one thing
Right.
that happens to us is that, well, I tried this one time and I tried this next time. If we have a system that we can polish it and perfect it, and we go through those same steps every time, it really helps us as well.
That's the key,
Yeah.
repetition, the
Yes.
same steps every time.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right. Well, thanks so much for your time. Again, we much appreciate it. Y'all reach out, see how she can give you a hand on your sales process. That's going to do it for another episode of the Business of Business podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Roy. You can find us at www.thebusinessofbusinesspodcast.com. We're on all the major social media platforms. Hang out on Instagram a little bit more than anywhere else, so reach out to us there. We'd be glad to engage. Also, we're on all the major podcast platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Spotify. If we're not on one that you listen to, reach out. I'd be glad to get added, make it easier for you to listen to us every week. Also, a video of this interview will go up on our YouTube channel, so go check that out. So until next time, take care of yourself and take care of your business.